Thank you to the patrons for supporting the channel.
This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend.
Welcome back to the finale of the Five Nights at Freddy's Retrospective series. Maybe in a couple of years I'll look back at Help Wanted or Security Breach, but for now, this is kind of a melancholy moment. We're looking at the end. Now, in the future, I'm still going to be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, just in a different format. And I'm excited to cover a lot of other games. What do we have to look forward to in the future? Well, the patrons have voted on a retrospective series about the SCP games, from Containment Breach to 087B to all the stuff in between. So this is not the end. But it is a little sad. So before we move on to talking about Ultimate Custom Night, I just want to have a look back. The first retrospective I ever released in November of 2020, and it did really well. The support was amazing. What I was doing beforehand was just short FNaF VHS analysis videos, and what that video showed me was that I could take my time and put a lot of effort into my videos and people would appreciate it. And I want to give proper credit to Scruffy. I got Scruffy's video about FNAF 1's audio in my recommended, and I thought the deep dive nature of the video was amazing. It inspired me to talk about the other aspects of the game, visuals, lore, community, and gameplay. And so the retrospective video was born. And since then, the series has blown up my channel, literally allowing me to do this for a living. I'm moving into my own place in a few weeks here, and of course, I'm super appreciative of all of the patrons. So just thank you. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's talk about Ultimate Custom Night. This game is unique. It wasn't originally intended to be a standalone game, instead a custom night update to Pizzeria Simulator like how Sister Location's custom night was. But the project got so big it had to become its own project. Every single character from the series, the biggest custom night ever, 50/20 mode. And interestingly, Scott became a lot more transparent with development. He added progress updates as teasers, what characters were added, and even how each of them worked before the game was even released. As well, there were tons of new voice casting calls, including really mysterious or vague descriptions. Theory crafting once again began. Who were these characters? Also, there was a challenge between Dawko and Scott Cawthon. Like I said, things had become increasingly transparent, so people already knew how absurdly difficult this was going to be. 50 characters, max 20 difficulty. So here was the challenge. Could Dawko beat 50/20 mode? If he could, he got an interview with Scott Cawthon. If he couldn't, well, then he had to make a fan game called FNaF 7, and it was all about Dawko praising Scott Cawthon. Just another layer of hype. What was the outcome? Well, we'll talk about that in the community and theories section. For now, let's just talk about gameplay, because on June 27th, 2018, Scott Cawthon released Ultimate Custom Night for free. I sat for a long time contemplating how to cover the gameplay part of this. All the other games, I've talked about how the gameplay makes it scary, but this game just isn't scary and isn't trying to be. It's literally 50 characters, all from different timelines and different styles. Some of them are pixelated, or some of them were just hallucinations. It's more of a goofy send-off to the tryhards of the series. By completing different challenges, you can unlock different office skins based on the different games, or buy different upgrades to make your night easier. And like any custom night, it's up to you to set the individual controls for each character, along with some challenges you can try, and the most difficult obviously being 50/20 mode. There's also a standalone mechanic with the death coin, which you can buy to remove one of the animatronics from your night. Now honestly, a lesser man would just end it there. I mean, there's 50 characters to talk about, but this is Ultimate Custom Night and the finale of the Retrospective series. So let's talk about all 50 animatronics. Luckily, Scott was nice enough to have a whole list of all the animatronics and how they work before the game even released. So here we go.
Golden Freddy. When he appears after lowering your tablet, pull it back up quickly to get rid of him. Staring at him for too long will end your run with an unpleasant surprise. Helpy. He will appear on your desk at random when closing your tablet. Get rid of him quick or he'll get up close and personal with an air horn. BB. He will try to sneak in through the side vent. Close the side vent and wait until you hear a thud indicating he's gone. If BB slips in, he will temporarily make a nuisance of himself, disabling your flashlight until he leaves. JJ. She will also try to sneak in through the side vent. Close the side vent and wait until you hear a thud indicating she's gone. If JJ slips in, she will disable all your door controls until she leaves. Nightmare, Fredbear, and Nightmare. This tag team duo are invisible to the cameras and can only be seen when they reach your doorways. Fredbear takes left and Nightmare takes right. Even then, only their eyes are visible. Close the doors on their faces to send them back into the darkness. Phantom Freddy. He will slowly materialize in your office, fading in from nothing. Shining your flashlight at him is the only way to make him disappear again. If he fully materializes, he will jump scare you and cause you to black out temporarily. Old Man Consequences. Better catch a fish. The Marionette. If you neglect its music box, then it will break free of its prison. Once out, it can't be put back inside, and your ventilation system will drain much faster than it did before, causing blackouts and eventually a game over. Nightmarion. His presence moves randomly to different locations in your office as you play and begins to reappear when your mouse cursor moves over him. Be quick to avoid the area of the office that he occupies, or your run will end with a jump scare. Music Man. He is behind you, always, and is sound activated. If you continue to make a lot of noise, he will slowly become more active, crashing his cymbals together faster and faster, finally ending your run with a startling face-to-face jump scare. Nightmare BB. He sits in your office throughout the night, usually slouched over. When slouched, be careful not to shine your light on him. If he is standing, however, shine your light on him to return him to his sitting position, otherwise he will attack you when you turn away. Happy Frog. She climbs around the overhead duct system, making her way toward the hose that drops into your office. Use the audio lure to hold her in place. She's fooled 100% of the time by the audio lure, but is immune to the effects of the heater. Mr. Hippo. He climbs around the overhead duct system, making his way to the hoses that drop into your office. Using the heater to repel him or the audio to lure him to hold him in place. He's fooled 100% of the time by the audio lure. He's slightly faster than Happy Frog. Pig Patch. He climbs around the overhead duct system, making his way toward the hoses that drop into your office. Use the heater to repel him or the audio lure to hold him in place. He's fooled 100% of the time by the audio lure. He is slightly faster than Mr. Hippo. Ned Bear. He climbs around the overhead duct system, making his way toward the hoses that drop into your office. Use the heater to repel him or the audio lure to hold him in place. He's fooled 50% of the time by the audio lure and is slightly faster than Pig Patch. Orville the Elephant. He climbs around the overhead duct system, making his way toward the hoses that drop into your office. Use the heater to repel him or the audio lure to hold him in place. He's fooled 10% of the time by the audio lure. He is slightly faster than Ned Bear. Springtrap. He climbs around the vent system, making his way toward the opening vent embedded in the wall in front of you. Track him by watching the vent monitor. He moves silently, so don't bother listening for him, but when he is poised to attack, you'll see his face looking back at you from the vent. Close the vent door on him to send him on his way. Molten Freddy. He also climbs in the vent system, but is much faster than the other animatronics when it comes to maneuvering his way toward you. You can track him in the vent monitor and can hear his laugh when he is poised to attack. Close the vent door to send him away. Ennard. He also climbs in through the vent system, but unlike the other animatronics in the vents, he is difficult to track, appearing only briefly here and there when moving. He can't be seen in the vent opening, but gives himself away by making a squeaking sound before attacking. Close the vent door on him to send him away. Phantom Mangle will appear at random in your viewing monitor. Close the monitor or switch viewing modes to make it disappear. If left on screen for too long, Phantom Mangle will invade your office temporarily, causing audio distractions, increasing your noise meter, which can attract even more problems. Mangle makes his way through the vent system, but unlike the other animatronics in the vents, once he reaches the vents in your office, he will never leave and will enter your office the moment the vent door opens. The only way to stop her is to use the vent snare, which can only be active in one place at a time, forcing you to keep track of Mangle's location in the vents to ensure the correct vent snare is active. Once in your office, Mangle will hang from the ceiling, creating audio disturbances before eventually dropping down to jump scare you. Withered Chica. She is the last of the 5 vent crawlers. Withered Chica can be blocked by the vent snare as well as the vent door. Unlike Ennard and the others, she gives no audio cue when she is at the door, meaning you need to track her position using the vent radar. If she reaches the vent door, she'll become stuck in it, preventing you from closing it for the rest of the night. While her girth prevents Ennard, Molten Freddy, and Springtrap from passing, Mangle can still get through. While this may seem like a strategic advantage, keep in mind that Withered Chica may eventually wiggle free and jump scare you. Toy Bonnie. He sneaks in through a trap door on your right. There is no way to prevent him from entering your office. Your only defense is to put on your Freddy Fazbear mask to fool him. Looking directly at him will increase the effectiveness of the mask, causing him to leave a little faster. Toy Chica. She sneaks in through a trap door on your left, and just like Toy Bonnie, there's no way to prevent her from getting into the room. Your only defense is to put on your Freddy Fazbear mask to fool her. Toy Chica is faster than Toy Bonnie and will invade your office more often. However, she is easier to fool with the mask, especially when looking directly at her. Jacko Chica. She appears at both your left and right doors at the same time. Closing either door by itself will have no effect on her. Check your cameras and view the hallways on either side of you. When Jacko Chica is fully materialized at both doors, close both doors simultaneously to cause her to disappear. Keeping your office cool will prevent her from appearing. Jacko Chica only begins to appear when your office overheats. If the office is over 100 degrees, then closing the doors will have no effect. Rockstar Chica. She stands outside your office waiting for her chance to jump scare you. She can approach from either side. Closing the doors will not cause her to leave. To make her leave, double-click the wet floor sign to place in front of the door that she's standing at. This will discourage her from entering. She will be afraid of slipping and make her go away. Freddy Fazbear. When he approaches from the left hall, emerging from the darkness and progressing in stages towards your door, keep track of him on the monitor and shut the door when he's standing in the doorway to turn him away. He moves faster as the building gets warmer, so try to keep things at a cool 60 degrees whenever possible. Phantom BB. He will appear in your viewing monitor at random. Quickly change your cameras or lose the monitor to avoid his jump scare. Getting jump scared by Phantom BB will cause you to black out temporarily. Phone Guy. He will call you at random into your office, and you will only have a brief amount of time to mute his call. If you fail to mute the call, then you will be forced to listen to the whole thing, which will aggravate you, as well as any animatronic that is sensitive to the noise level. Also, the mute button will appear in unpredictable locations. Nightmare Freddy. While you aren't looking, mini Freddy's Freddles will accumulate on your desk and around the office. Shine your flashlight to scare them away. If you let too many of them gather together, then Nightmare Freddy will be summoned, ending your run with a jump scare. Chica. She hangs out in the kitchen, generally being clumsy and knocking over lots of pots and pans. In Custom Night, the kitchen is also where the music box happens to be, and while Chica doesn't care if the music box is wound up or not, she can grow tired of the music selection playing. As long as you hear pots and pans, Chica is content. If she stops making noise, however, then she's grown tired of the song, and you only have a short amount of time to change it. Don't get too eager to change the music selections though, because if you change the music while Chica is happy, then she will leave the kitchen to come get you. Once she leaves the kitchen, there's no way to make her go back. Lefty. He sits in the closet off of the left hallway. He becomes more and more agitated if the office becomes too noisy or too hot. The state of agitation increases slowly and will eventually end with Lefty jump scaring you. Lowering the noise level won't reverse the effects, nor will reducing the temperature, and the doors won't prevent Lefty from getting you. The only way to ease his temperament is to switch on the global music box, which soothes all music box animatronics at the expense of extra power being drained. L-Chip. L-Chip is just a cameo mascot when he appears in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. His real passion lies in authentic Mexican cuisine. He isn't here to jump scare you, but he may interrupt your night with some jarringly colorful advertisements for Chip's Fiesta Buffet. Click skip or press enter to get rid of the invasive advertisements before you lose control of what's going on in your office. Withered Bonnie. He slips in through the trapdoor while you're viewing your monitor. You'll know he's there by the audio and visual distortions he causes just by standing there ominously. You'll only have a short amount of time to put on the mask to ward him off, otherwise a jump scare is all you'll have to look forward to. Funtime Chica. She isn't there to ruin your day, she just wants her moment in the spotlight. She will occasionally appear on your screen as though posing for the red carpet, accompanied by camera flashes, which may cause some disorientation. You'll need to learn to maneuver around your office despite these disorienting effects, otherwise someone else may take advantage of your confusion and crash the party. Toy Freddy. Relax, Toy Freddy is retired. He sits in the parts and service room playing video games on his big screen TV. What games is he playing? Five Nights at Mr. Hugs, of course. The problem is that Toy Freddy has never really been very good at video games, and if he loses this game, he'll probably blame you for it. Check the parts and service cam to see how he's doing. In Five Nights with Mr. Hugs, there are only 3 ways into the office, and only one door can be closed at a time. Click the cams on Toy Freddy's monitor, then be sure that the appropriate door is closed to prevent Mr. Hugs from getting into his office. If you check on Toy Freddy and see game over on his screen, that means that Mr. Hugs has already jump scared him, and now Toy Freddy is on his way to jump scare you. Once Toy Freddy has been jump scared, there will be no way to calm him down and no way to save yourself. Funtime Foxy. He hides behind his curtain waiting for the show to begin. Check his stage and read the sign to see when the showtime is. It will always be on the hour, but the hour will be random. For instance, showtime may be 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Remember that time, because showtime is the exact moment that you get jump scared. There's only one way to prevent showtime, and that's by viewing his stage at the moment the hour changes. If you're watching him on camera when showtime arrives, then the show will be delayed by several hours, and the sign will change as well. Each hour in-game lasts exactly 45 seconds, and there is a timer visible while you play. Use this to calculate exactly when you need to be viewing Funtime Foxy's curtain to ensure that his showtime never happens. Ballora. She will approach from either the left or right hall, disabling all of your camera feeds as she approaches. You'll have to rely on the sound of her music to determine which side she's approaching from, and close the correct door before she reaches you. Close the door in time and she will retreat into the darkness. Rockstar Bonnie. He will occasionally appear in your office and is conspicuously missing his guitar. In fact, the only way to appease him is to locate his guitar in the camera system and double-click on it. Fail to do this in a timely fashion and you'll lower your monitor and only be greeted with a jump scare. Rockstar Foxy. His parrot will occasionally fly through your office, and if you're able to click on it before he gets away, then Rockstar Foxy will appear in your office. While the other Foxies are here only to torment you, Rockstar Foxy isn't quite as hostile. In fact, he'll probably offer a few interesting boosts to help you get through the night, such as increasing your power meter, restoring the temperature to a cool 60 degrees, or soundproofing your office for 5 seconds. However, choosing to summon Rockstar Foxy isn't without risk. If you catch him in a bad mood, he may just greet you with a jump scare and end your turn. Circus Baby, Nightmare Bonnie, and Nightmare Mangle. They will all approach from the right hall, but each of them will only attack once per night, and they change their order of attack each night, so you don't know who to expect first. There are 2 ways to defend against them. One is to shut the right door and leave it shut for the duration of the night, which is obviously impractical as well as it will drain your power. The other is to purchase their plush toy from the prize corner. The prize corner has only 3 plush toys available to buy: Bonnie, Mangle, and Baby, and your funds will be very limited, so it's important to buy the characters in order that they will appear in the hall. You must use fast coins to purchase the plush toys, and there are 2 ways to accumulate them throughout the night. One is to block the attacks of other animatronics. Each successful block earns 1 fast coin. The other way to earn coins is to find them on the cams and scan your mouse cursor over them to collect them. Increasing the difficulty of these characters will increase the price of their plush toys. William Afton, aka Scrap Trap. Afton has the distinction of having the simplest mechanic in the game, but also possibly the scariest. He will only attack once per night, and there will be no way of knowing in advance when this attack will happen, or if it will happen at all. He will always attack from the vent on the right wall, and when he does, there will be a violent clamoring sound in the vent and the lights will flicker. When this happens, you only have a fraction of a second to close the vent door, or your turn will end with Afton screaming in your face. Scrap Baby. Once per night, she will appear on the other side of your desk, slouched over and appearing to be decommissioned. There will be a shock panel sitting next to her. You can shock her at any time by clicking on this button, but it will drain 1% of your power battery each time you do so, and will have no effect until she is poised to attack. You must refrain from pushing the button until you notice that she has moved. Shocking her at this stage will cause her to leave your office and not return. If you fail to notice that she has moved and bring up your monitor again, then you'll have nothing but a jump scare to look forward to. Rockstar Freddy. He will stand in your office the entire night, and on occasion will activate, demanding a payment of 5 fast coins. If you pay him, he will return to sleep mode. If you fail to pay him in a timely fashion, however, then your run will end with an angry Rockstar Freddy in your face. The problem is that fast coins might be scarce, especially if you have other fast coin demanding animatronics in your halls. Thankfully, there's another option at your disposal. If you're running short on fast coins or just prefer not to spend them here, just crank up the heat for a few seconds. This will cause Rockstar Freddy to malfunction and eventually think that the payment has been made. In Scott Cawthon's official post, the trash gang is just question marks, but as I was looking on the wiki, they basically just jump scare you and make loud noises, but they don't end your night or really do anything other than scare you. Bonnie. Poor Bonnie has been forced to share a cramped stage with another animatronic Foxy, and he's pretty upset about it. These 2 will take turns looking out from the curtain, but whereas Foxy will hide himself when viewed on the camera, Bonnie will do the opposite and become more agitated. If Bonnie is looking out from the curtain when you view Pirate's Cove, he'll take the opportunity to flash his blinding eyes and scramble the cameras, all of them for a significant amount of time. Needless to say, losing your ability to use your cameras for a long time will most likely be a death sentence. The only way to tell who is actively looking out of Pirate's Cove is to observe a tiny figure on your desk. This figurine will change from Foxy to Bonnie depending on who is active in Pirate's Cove. Not paying attention to this detail and thereby looking or not looking at Pirate's Cove at the wrong time can cost you your run. Foxy. He inhabits Pirate's Cove along with Bonnie, and while you shouldn't view Pirate's Cove when Bonnie is active, it's a necessity when Foxy is. Foxy will gradually make his exit if you don't check on him regularly, and once he's out, there's no way to make him go back. He also has a new trick up his sleeve to get into your office. He gets in piece by piece. He will find any vulnerability in your office and slip chunks of himself in, arms, legs, head, torso, through any open vent or open door until all of his fragments are inside. Once there, he will wait for you to pull up your monitor before putting himself back together and jump scaring you. Dee Dee. She appears at random and can add a whole new animatronic to your game. The animatronic added will not be announced, so you'll have to quickly look at your cameras and other systems to find out who it is. Dee Dee also has the potential to add one of 3 characters not listed in the character select screen: RXQ or Shadow Bonnie. He will cause your office to become pitch black for about 10 seconds. There's no way to avoid him. Plush Trap. He will appear on a specific screen and sit in his chair, but if you don't scare him out of his chair fast enough, he'll jump scare you. The final one on the list is just question marks, and I believe this is Fredbear, which is an Easter egg, which we'll get into later. We've been going on for a really long time already, so I don't want to extend it anymore, but the other characters that Dee Dee can spawn are Nightmare Chica, Bonnet, Mini Arenas, and Lolbit.
That enough detail for you? If not, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's the game. So let's move on to visuals and audio. Now, there isn't a lot to talk about here, so these segments will probably be pretty short. Again, they're not really scary, and it's not trying to be, so there's only a few things I have to say. One cool aspect that I mentioned briefly are the offices. Instead of being stuck in one office, you can unlock different skins for the office that reference the different games, from FNaF 1 to 4 to Sister Location, etc. And the default office has plenty of references and homages to the different offices throughout the games. The desk, walls, cupcake from FNaF 1, the toys from FNaF 4, to the shell of the animatronics from 3, to the pipes and the Ennard mask of Sister Location. Almost every game is represented here. All of the characters are here, from your favorites to obscure characters you might not even know of if you're a more casual fan, like the Trash Gang, Dee Dee, and Old Man Consequences. Nothing has really changed visually for the characters, they're all pretty much the same. Now, the clash of all of these styles, characters, and games does not create a very scary atmosphere. Like I said though, it's not really trying to. Tense? Sure, but it's really goofy more than anything. I mean, the visual alone of Toy Freddy gaming is goofy enough to ruin any fear. But with so many things going on, especially in this crowded office, the feeling of tense panic is tangible. It's almost like a rhythm game. Maybe it'd be easier if it was just timing lines down the screen, but they've got to add explosions and effects and loud sounds and screen shake and all sorts of shit to distract you. The visual overload on something like 5020 is astonishing. Characters fading in and out, things popping up on screen, any number of random eyes staring at you from the desk. It's very confusing on purpose. Okay, one more thing about the visuals. We have to talk about Funtime Chica. They gave the chicken titties. Okay, that's fine on its own, I guess. In the bubble of this goofy finale game, it's whatever. Kind of a joke or a nod to that joke that's basically been around since FNaF 2.
She is such a bad bitch, though. I will fuck the shit out of that robot, man. I'm not even...
But when it comes to just the drawings as a whole, just the artists Scott has chosen for, drawn art for the series, I've been kind of disappointed. I'm not trying to stir up drama, I'm just looking at a product as a consumer. The drawings are passable, I suppose, and I appreciate the idea of hiring people from the community, but there are artists that are so much more deserving of the spotlight. And there are personal reasons why I don't like the artists Scott hired from the community, mainly Pinky Pills and Lady Fizzy, mostly because they're both huge perverts, and I think Lady Fizzy is like a transphobe. I'm not trying to throw Scott under the bus here. I appreciate the idea of what he was trying to do. He wanted to take people from the community who have put a lot of time into it and give them a job to actually work officially on the games. And I can see that his heart is in the right place with other things like the Fazbear Fan Game Universe initiative. But I'm just glad he's actually hiring professional comic artists for the Twisted Ones graphic novel, because the Silver Eyes one was... ugh. Okay, not a lot to say here. Honestly, the big thing is just that all of the characters have voice lines. Almost every single character has multiple after-death voice lines. In Pizzeria Simulator, it didn't really work for me. I just thought it was too goofy and it ruined the whole tension of it because it was trying to be scary and trying to take itself seriously. But this game is just completely wacky and goofy, so it adds a little bit of depth and character. Generally, the music and sound effects are good as always, and the menu music goes hard. And not that I need to remind you, but the audio is used a lot in this game. From Phone Guy to Music Man, there's a real importance to the audio. No stone of gameplay was left unturned for this game, so don't just keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears open. But like I said, there's not a lot else to say here, so let's just move on to the fun part, the lore and the secrets. So if you dipped out of the fan base before this game, you may be thinking, how is it even possible that any of this is canon? Is it like FNaF World where it's sort of meta? Well, not exactly. When we get to the theory part, we'll talk a little bit about how the gameplay itself is probably canon, but for now, let's just look at everything face value. First, the voice lines. Like I said, after every death, the character that jump scares you will say a voice line, and many times they will have multiple to choose from. Of what you have created. Now, 99% of these don't really mean anything, just spooky or funny one-liners. However, a lot is revealed in some of these. For instance, one of Withered Chica's lines is, "I was the first. I have seen everything." Now that seems important. The first victim, the first set of victims. Other lines, including another one from Withered Chica, reference someone that you should not have killed. That is obviously a big deal. It means whoever you're playing as is a killer. So William Afton? That is a wild revelation, and it means all of the voice lines are directed at the main killer of the whole series, which adds a whole new layer to all of these lines. A bunch of other lines start to make more sense and connect to this idea, and feed into what the story really means. I am a burning reminder of your misdeeds.
I am given flesh to be your tormentor.
Really hammering home this idea that this is some sort of punishment for William Afton. That's just the surface level for these voice lines, but there's something more. So who's the one you should not have killed? Well, most likely it's the vengeful spirit that was hinted at in the voice casting. And where does this show up? The mediocre melodies, strangely enough. These characters usually just have goofy voice lines, but every once in a while they'll say something out of character, and behind their voice you can hear someone whispering, controlling what they're saying.
This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over and over again, forever. I will never let you leave.
Someone else is pulling the strings. So obviously that is important, but we'll move on to more details of what that could mean in the theory section. For now, just realize we're playing as a killer, this is some sort of punishment, and someone else is pulling the strings. Quickly before we move on, I want to make a correction. In my last video, I said we don't really have any idea what the gravestones mean at the end of Pizzeria Simulator, but there is one connection that I missed out on. The gravestones are set up in line with the animatronic heads at the end of FNaF 3, so it seems like these are the names of the original crew victims. I still think having 2 FNaF guard names is stupid unless they're saying that they are the victims, but then the 5 kids going missing, this story is hard to track. I do think having the parallel with the first real finale of the series with FNaF 3 is really cool. But I bring the gravestones up for another reason. At this point, the community was still working hard at the survival logbook, and a mystery was being solved. The name of Golden Freddy, aka one of the obscured gravestones. There were all sorts of codes and hints and crazy stuff to be solved, but one user actually did it. I believe the first person to really figure this out was DPowerful1 on Reddit. Using the word search in the book, they were able to find the name Cassidy, which I believe is a name referenced in the last of the Silver Eyes trilogy. It's a pretty big deal, literally Golden Freddy's name, but there was more lore in the books around this time. On the note of the logbook, there was a little bit of stuff I didn't mention about the logbook in my Pizzeria Simulator, most notably that the owner of the logbook was Michael Afton. Tons of different hints and even the first name suggests this, but the drawing of Nightmare Fredbear really hits home. This was Michael Afton's logbook. And finally, the 4th closet came out, the final book in the Silver Eyes trilogy. Again, the name Cassidy is in that book too. But there's also a more expanded definition of what Remnant is. I explained it a little bit in my Pizzeria Simulator video, but to just go over it again briefly, it's essentially a mix of molten metal, human flesh, and strong human emotion. It's basically what makes the animatronics haunted, or maybe more of like a byproduct, I'm not exactly clear. Either way, in the 4th closet, William Afton is experimenting with it to give himself like eternal life. I never really finished that book, but it does add a bit more of an expanded definition to the lore. Looking away from the books, let's look at more of the hidden secrets of this game. First, let's look at Old Man Consequences. If you set him to be the only character and then catch a fish, you'll be teleported here. A very similar place to Old Man Consequences area in FNaF World. He says, "Come and sit with me for a while. Leave the demon to his demons. Rest your own soul. There is nothing else." Meanwhile, creepy ambience plays in the background. If you go into the lake, then the game crashes. It seems like we're switching perspectives from William's to the vengeful spirit, being told to leave William alone and let their own soul move on. And to slightly get into the theory area for a moment, that's why the game just ends and crashes. The game is the punishment, so the game crashes when the soul moves on. Kinda reminds me of this part in FNaF World after going to Old Man Consequences Lake. A lot of people thought this was an angel. There's also something else here too. The audio in the background is actually an extremely slowed version of screaming. Likely, this is William screaming. Pretty horrifying. There's also these weird anime cutscenes, one about like Yandere Chica and another one which I guess was like a precursor to the recent Fury's Rage game. The only thing here outside of the jokes that might be interesting to the story is some possible parallels to Chica and William. The only thing that really creeps me out and does any real world building is the fact that Chica has victims and says the line, "By the end of the day, he'll be mine." If you want to look at the parallels, it paints a really creepy picture of William Afton sitting in the corner of Freddy Fazbear's choosing a victim for that day. Ugh. And of course, there's the vengeful spirit, the one you should not have killed's face. You see this creepy, distorted face faintly on the game over screen at times. Besides being like the only human character we've seen that isn't pixelated, it's also just really creepy. But aside from that, there's no like hidden codes or whatever, it's just the face. You can also summon Fredbear. Not Golden Freddy, Fredbear, which is basically the same thing but with a purple hat and tie. Turning on only Golden Freddy, buying the death coin, and then using it when he's on screen will cause Fredbear to jump scare you. Afterwards, distorted audio plays that are very hard to make out, but some people have taken a crack at it, including MatPat. But it's really hard to tell. The last really important thing I'll talk about is the Golden Freddy cutscene. After getting a score of 9800, you get this cutscene. Pretty creepy, but also slightly emotional. There's something hauntingly sad about the music and Golden Freddy just twitching as he fades away. Exactly what it means is unclear, but it's pretty cool. There's a couple other, smaller, not really very relevant Easter eggs I should mention. Some FNaF World characters will appear at times, and then of course, the opening. I completely forgot that that was a thing until I opened up the game to make this video, and it completely got me. With all of that out of the way, let's talk community. First, just a reminder, this was the most community transparency Scott has ever given to a FNaF game. The progress, how far along he was, each character and how each character worked, and also 50/20 mode was a huge deal. This was obviously talked about with all of the custom nights, but people were legitimately wondering if 50/20 mode was even possible. And like I said, because of that, Dawko challenged Scott Cawthon. And well, you wanted to know the outcome, although I'm sure you do if you're in the Five Nights at Freddy's community. Well, after literally days of streaming, Dawko did it. He wasn't the first, but he was up there, and so we got probably the only audio interview with Scott Cawthon, and definitely the only official interview since FNaF 1. If you like FNaF, I would definitely recommend watching it. It's really interesting and there are some good questions in there. But definitely a huge shout out to Remory for beating 50/20 mode first. Alright, with all the stuff I've talked about in the lore section, let me just quickly spell out the two main theories behind this, although the first one is definitely more widely accepted. The first theory goes like this. After the events of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, William is on his way to hell. But that didn't quite work. See, this vengeful spirit who is widely thought to be Golden Freddy keeps his soul from moving to hell, instead wanting to punish William himself. So that's what Ultimate Custom Night's gameplay is. All of the visions of William's creations coming after him, killing him over and over for eternity. For some reason, the puppet's attempt to help him in the happiest day wasn't successful for Golden Freddy, and his soul stays behind to punish him. Some people even think that he's holding the other spirits hostage to help him, stopping them from moving on. However, the hope is that Old Man Consequences, whoever the hell that is, convinces Golden Freddy to rest his spirit, and I guess William goes to hell. Except when in Help Wanted, his digital self is uploaded to the Matrix, and the other theory is a little thinner considering how much points to William, but this was a pretty popular theory back when the game first came out. At this point, it's pretty well established that the older brother in FNaF 4 is Michael Afton, who accidentally kills his younger brother. Well, the theory here is that his younger brother is Golden Freddy, the one you should not have killed. After Michael burns at the end of Pizzeria Simulator, his brother punishes him. Not sure why they'd have to specify the one you shouldn't have killed, or how the references all fit in, but that was one of the other ideas. Unless, of course, you're MatPat, who thought that Michael Afton is the younger brother. Alright, man. Okay, speaking of MatPat and stuff, I feel like I need to address this. A lot of people, especially after my FNaF 4 video where I had a whole segment basically debunking an old MatPat theory, a lot of people think that I hate MatPat, but that is not true. Look, there's a lot of stuff that MatPat has done that is cringy, or just in poor taste, and that's not just like the Sans vs. Ness video. Plus, his persona is just very smarmy, so it makes him an easy target to make fun of. But I don't hate him. He's a very important part of the Five Nights at Freddy's community. I admire the amount of work he puts in and dedication to making these extremely long, well-edited, most of the time really well thought out Five Nights at Freddy's theories. And the charity work he's done is astounding. He's raised so much money and put together huge events that are really amazing, and I admire him for that. I actually really like watching FNaF game theories whenever they come out. He's just kind of goofy and has the whole know-it-all persona, so he's kind of easy to make fun of. And with that out of the way, let's see where this game goes on the tier list. Okay, so where does the game go on the tier list? Wow, this is the last time we're gonna do one of these, the final answer to my personal tier list of all the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Well, it goes in C. I mean, this one rides pretty much entirely on its community importance alone. It's a cool concept and well executed for what it is, but what it is not a lot. It's not really very scary and doesn't have a lot of the hallmarks of a Five Nights at Freddy's game, despite having like every character. I mean, it's a feat to get that many characters into one game and have it still work, so, you know, there's no denying that, but as a game on its own, it's just not a lot. FNaF World Update 1 and 2 definitely have way more going for them, but I just couldn't put it in F. It's perfectly fine for what it is, and there is some pretty cool lore stuff in it. So here we are, the end of an era. Although you could also look at it as the beginning of a new one. I've got plenty of content in the future. The SCP retrospectives, reviews, video essays, and live streaming again, and a few projects I can't quite talk about yet. And don't worry, this is not the end for Five Nights at Freddy's on the channel. I'll just have different ways of covering them. And people really seem to like the idea of doing a retrospective series on the book series, so maybe I'll do that. Like I said at the beginning, this series has been amazing from beginning to end, and I can't thank you guys enough for it. I look forward to making more content in the future, but until then, I hope you've enjoyed this look back at Five Nights at Freddy's.